stop it.
Welcome back to Big Gold Belt Media. I'm Damian G, and I just got done watching Deadpool and Wolverine, scheduled to be in theaters nationwide Friday, July 26th. So let me get this out of the way now. This movie combines the Fox universe with the MCU, amongst other Marvel properties, in a way you wouldn't expect. This will be a non-spoiler review. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. If you are a Marvel fan expecting the Marvel Jesus known as Deadpool to save the MCU, I don't know if he did that. I can't really say that this was a success in that realm. I will tell you, you're going to get blood, you're going to get violence, you're going to get gore, you're going to get an R-rated Wolverine, you're going to get a lot of innuendos, a lot of fourth wall breaking. Not as much as in past Deadpools, at least in my opinion. A few wink-wink moments here and there, and some of the cameos are going to surprise you in a way you didn't think was going to happen. Now, if you're a fan of Deadpool and you're a fan of an R-rated, unbridled Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine as a disgruntled, get-off-my-lawn Clint Eastwood type character, then you are in luck. Because that's what this Wolverine is. He's crotchety, he's grumpy, he's angry, he's pained. He is going through stuff. And Deadpool, being the annoying little brother that will not let shit go, is the perfect foil for this version of Wolverine. You would be remiss, or I would be remiss, if I didn't mention that while watching this movie, I forgot this was a Deadpool movie, not a Wolverine movie, not a Wolverine reconciliation story that takes pretty much it jumps from place to place, especially in the second act, and it gets a little bogged down. But you would have been surprised to see some of the things that I just saw in this movie. Like I said, this is not a perfect film whatsoever, because between the jokes, the cameos, the fight scenes, the blood and such, there is a second act of this film that almost drags this movie down to a crawl. And I am not going to lie to you all, I lost interest for a couple of seconds there early on in the second act. The first act is a slow bop, slow moving up the hill. And then we get to the crescendo of one of the first or second major cameos of the movie, which threw me for a loop because I didn't expect that at all from the way it came out. But when you get to the second act, it's a little bit of a droll. It's a little bit of a slow bog. But then you get midway through the second act toward the latter half of the second act and it starts to pick up again. And then you're reminded how good of an actor Hugh Jackman really is throughout this movie. If I had to say the MVP of this film, I would say it was him. Ryan Reynolds, I apologize. I'm sorry. But this isn't a you film. This is a Wolverine film that just happens to have Deadpool in it for the comic relief. But this showed me how much, it reminded me how much of a great actor Hugh Jackman has been, especially in the role of Wolverine, but playing it with this type of nuance, where he is in an R-rated film, and this is a unbridled, unleashed version of Wolverine, but he is broken, more so than in Logan, at least in my opinion. In 2018's Logan, he is broken, he is disheveled, he is angry, he is hurting, he is suffering. And it comes off the screen, I should say, rather quickly. And throughout the majority of this movie, this is an entity who is going through something major in his life, who is overcoming a trauma of sorts. And he has to take that with him throughout this entire movie, even until the end of the film. And you feel for him. You feel for Hugh Jackman's Logan in this one. More so, dare I say, more so than in Logan back in 2018. I will say the third act pulls this all together very nicely, but it was a slow trot to get there during the second act. The best parts for me, now I will say the cameos are some you are going to expect, and there are some that came out of left field that left me with my jaw agape and saying, what the hell just happened? There's a few moments where I just didn't expect something to happen, and it came out of nowhere, and I screamed, oh no. or oh damn at least one or two times throughout this movie when it comes to some of the cameos. Some of the cameos fell flat, in my opinion. Felt maybe a little forced, but that comes with the territory of an MCU movie. You're not gonna love everything in an MCU film. And might I add, is this an MCU film? Yes, this is. Is this about Marvel Jesus? No, it is not. Like I said earlier, this is a Wolverine movie in my estimation. It just happens to have Deadpool in this film. Hugh Jackman's going to have a monologue, multiple monologues, but there's one in particular he's going to have in the middle portion of this film. And if you don't shed a tear, I'd be really surprised, because I shed a tear when he told this story. He told a couple of stories during his monologues, but there was one in particular that's kind of been spoiled by the internet, but you have to listen to the whole thing. And as someone who has worked as a therapist, I can tell you there was catharsis for this character, for this version of the character. There was a come to Jesus moment a couple of times where he has to reconcile within himself. And it's a well-performed movie. It is a well-acted movie. It's a well-acted performance by one Hugh Jackman, who never ceases to amaze me in his different portrayals of Logan. It has the emotional gravitas that shows the pain, the anguish, the regret that this particular Wolverine feels that has happened in his past, in his universe. And when you find out what happened, you hurt with him. You hurt for him, you hurt with him. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, okay, Damon, enough with the acting stuff, but what about the action parts? We know the acting, but what about the action? Not as much as you would think. You would think there would be a lot more exposition into fighting. But the fighting, dare I say, was poignant and necessary. And I'm not even talking about the second act. I'm talking about the end of the first. You know what? Yeah, I will say the second act. I will say the first act into the middle of the second act, there were some fight scenes that were necessary between our characters and some other people. And it needed to be done to flesh out the story, to flesh out the emotion, because this is a buddy cop film gone wrong on so many levels. This takes the buddy cop film to a different level. If you've seen something like akin to 48 Hours, if you've ever seen that movie, or if you've seen the movie Twins, I'm probably dating myself here with those two movie references. You will get the fish out of water. One's in on the joke, one isn't in on the joke in terms of a buddy cop film. And that's what you get with these two characters. Oil and water, not supposed to mix. And at certain points, this didn't mix for me. I might be a little hard on this movie. It's not a perfect film, like I said. It had some struggles. One of the biggest struggles it had for me were the villains of this movie. The Cassandra Nova character. MCU has a problem when they introduce certain villains that aren't Thanos or Loki, where it feels as if they're wasting a potentially good villain, almost like a Marvel one-shot. Now, I'm not spoiling anything about what happens with Cassandra, but it feels as if she was wasted throughout this movie. Of all the villains you could have got, I don't think this is the villain I would have went with this particular film. I might have gone elsewhere. Someone who, let's say, owns a corporation, who is known to be a little sinister, I felt would have been a better choice to be the villain of this movie. Only because I didn't feel that she was villainous. I just felt that she was a petulant, cranky child who just happened to be malevolent. And it kind of fell flat. The character of Paradox fell flat for me after the first stanza. He's no Mobius. We'll just say that. He's no Owen Wilson. He's no Mobius. He's not even anybody from the first Deadpool film. Shoo, I thought the guy who ran the orphanage in the second Deadpool film is a better villain than the two villains we had here in this film, in Deadpool and Wolverine. And I might be hard on these characters, but I need a compelling villain to bounce off of these heroes, especially two who have the gravitas of both Deadpool and Wolverine, these ain't it. These were not the villains to use against them. Felt like a waste, if I'm being honest. Cassandra Nova had so much potential depth and layers to her character, and she was rather one note, in my opinion. The action scenes, while poignant, were not great, with the exception of the opening stanza, and maybe the first interaction between Deadpool and Wolverine as they go and journey onto the wasteland, as it were, as you've seen in the trailers, where they go off to the void, etc. So I gotta say, it wasn't perfect. It was a good film. Was it a great film? In my estimation, no, it wasn't even a great film. It was a good summer blockbuster. It was a good popcorn movie. The villains, like I said, felt a little as the low point of this movie. I just wish they could have done more with Cassandra Nova's character, as well as the Paradox character. I felt they could have done a little bit more than what they gave these characters. I thought the story was a little uneven, as I stated before early in this review. I'm not going to belabor the point. All I'm going to say is the early portion of Act 2 lost me for a little while there. It took a while to get me back on the train. But as we go on with the random cameos, like I said, which is probably the high point of this movie, aside from Hugh Jackman's performance, the cameos, specifically some that happened in the middle of the movie, okay. I wouldn't expect it. I was not expecting that. And I was pleased to see those cameos. I'm glad to see ones that popped up. I'm glad to see there were some that weren't used, that were teased. I know there were supposed to be appearances by certain actors playing certain roles. That didn't happen. There's one early cameo in the search for Logan. And while we're trying to find Logan, that made me go, oh, that's a little bit meta. I kind of like it. I think this would work. But you're going to have to watch to find out. So, what do I give this movie overall? I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't perfect. The jokes were a little heavy-handed. I think this is the least humorous Deadpool movie, at least to me. But because it's an R-rated MCU film, you couldn't bog it down in too much kyuk laughter, at least in my opinion. This gets a 4 out of 5 stars. The highlights of this film were the cameos, as well as Hugh Jackman's performance as Wolverine. I will say Ryan Reynolds' portrayal of Deadpool, a little middling. It was a little middling in my opinion, and it got a little tiresome with some of his fourth wall breaks and his jokes, and I could have done a little bit without it. Just I know he's the merc with the mouth, but there was too much mouth in certain parts where he should have just shut the fuck up. Pardon my French. But overall, 4 out of 5 stars. Deadpool and Wolverine releasing in theaters on Friday, July 26th. If you like blood, jokes, innuendos, and wink moments galore, this is for you. You're not going to get any Oscar-worthy performances, save for a couple of monologues from Hugh Jackman's characters. But let me know down in the comments below, what did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine? Do you agree with my 4 out of 5 star rating? Do you think I was a little too hard on the script? Do you think I was hard on the performances? What'd you think of the cameos? Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell for everything entertainment here at Big Gold Belt Media, biggoldbelt.com. And until next time, I will catch you in the next review.